honestly so thrilled to have you here today because we're stepping away from the usual data and the charts for a minute, and we're exploring something a little more visceral. We're going to unpack 4 chilling first-hand accounts that reveal the hidden and frankly terrifying horrors of deserted, off-season boardwalks. I mean, we all know that feeling, right? Walking through a space that is usually packed with thousands of people, but finding it completely empty? It's called a liminal space. And as we're about to see, when the crowds vanish from these nostalgic coastal havens, something much darker sometimes takes their place.
Okay, let's dive into this stark contrast. Normally, you picture your classic summer boardwalk. It's bustling, it's bright, the air smells like funnel cake, and it feels incredibly safe because you're surrounded by tourists. But fast forward to the winter off-season. Those same storefronts are boarded up. The streets are desolate, eerie, and completely isolated. Now for locals, this quiet is usually just a peaceful detox from the summer chaos. But this exact isolation is the absolute perfect stage for our campfire-style anthology today. Because when you're completely alone out there, the nearest help is miles away.
Let's start with our first narrative. Number 1. Beneath the Planks.
So this account comes from a 15-year-old high school runner who lived just a block from the beach, and his town turns into an absolute ghost town in the off-season. He loves doing these late-night runs to avoid the heat, and he carries literally nothing but his house keys and a rinky-dinky little Garmin watch for light. But on this specific night, he makes a huge mistake. His keys, which, by the way, had his home address etched right into them, slip out and fall through the gaps in the boardwalk. Knowing his parents are going to be furious, he jumps off the side and heads down to the sand. The source actually describes this sensory experience perfectly, saying it smelled like rotten seaweed mixed with stale beer. It is pitch black, it's damp. Every step kicks up wet sand and hidden garbage, and he's using just the tiny backlight of his watch to search this disgusting terrain, totally isolated from the world above.
Unable to find his keys in the dark, he comes up with a surprisingly clever idea. He climbs back up onto the boardwalk, unties his shoelace, and dangles it through the specific crack where he dropped his keys, just to act as a marker. But as he stands up to look, something tugged on the lace, and it instantly disappeared into the crack. I mean, let that sink in for a second. That wasn't the wind, not gravity. Someone, or something, reached up from the pitch-black darkness below and pulled it down. He immediately realizes that whoever is hiding underneath the boardwalk right now has his house keys.
Which begs a terrifying question. What would you do if a cold hand latched onto your ankle in the pitch black? Fueled by stupid teenage confidence and the absolute terror of a stranger having access to his house, he actually crawls back under. But this time, he hears faint shuffling. Then more shuffling from a totally different direction. He realizes there are multiple people hiding in the dark. Panic finally sets in, and as he turns to scramble out, a cold hand with digging fingernails latches right onto his ankle. He kicks blindly, breaks free, and just sprints home. His dad immediately calls the cops and changes all the locks. But you want to know the real horror? A few days later, after an early morning knock on his front door with absolutely no one in sight, he opens the door to find that exact same shoelace sitting neatly on his doormat. That haunting violation of safety brings us to our second account. Number 2, the silent follower. This story shifts our focus to an adult runner, someone just utilizing the deserted off-season boardwalk for a peaceful detox from life stresses. But about a mile in, listening to the rhythmic slap of his sneakers and the distant ocean, he gets that unmistakable primal feeling that he is being watched. At mile 1, our runner turns around and sees a man standing in the distance. He's not walking, not moving, just standing, facing him. A few minutes later, the runner turns again. The man is closer, but somehow still completely frozen in place. The runner pulls out a headphone and hears footsteps in perfect sync with his own. He breaks into an all-out sprint, lungs burning, but every single time he glances back, the man is impossibly closer. Yet, he's still perfectly stationary whenever he's being looked at. The physics of how quickly the stalker is closing the gap without seeming to move is completely unnatural. He finally reaches the boardwalk exit, practically sobbing in relief. He fumbles with his keys, throws himself into his car, throws it into reverse, and backs out. But right as he shifts into drive to speed away, he looks up. The hooded man is standing directly in front of the car, occupying the exact, precise spot the car had been parked in just seconds prior. The stalker had closed that final gap in the blink of an eye. The runner whips the wheel, nearly spinning out, and drives home without caring about red lights or speed limits. He never even saw the man's face, just the hood, leaving his mind to invent nightmares for months.
So, the crucial point here transitions us perfectly to our third story. Number 3, the restroom trap.
We follow a 22-year-old guy walking off a buzz all alone on the empty boardwalk after a late-night beach bonfire. Nature calls, right? So he makes the fateful decision to enter a grimy, dimly lit public boardwalk bathroom that smells strongly of bleach. Let's walk step by step through how this trap is methodically sprung. Step 1. He's in the farthest stall when he hears the main door creak open. Footsteps enter, but they don't use the facilities. Instead, they slowly circle the bathroom, stopping perfectly still near the sinks. Step 2. The victim tries to leave his stall, but the door refuses to budge. The footsteps approach, and he realizes someone is actively holding his stall door shut from the outside. Adrenaline kicks in, he literally physically charges the door and bursts out, only to see the main bathroom door swinging shut. Step 3. He rushes to the exit, grabs the handle, and it won't turn. He has been intentionally locked inside from the outside.
He starts banging furiously on the door, but then he hears movement from the stalls behind him. There was a second person hiding in there the entire time, probably standing on a toilet so their feet wouldn't show. Realizing he is completely caged with an unseen predator, he desperately climbs onto a fragile sink to squeeze through a tiny, grimy window near the ceiling. Just as he is halfway out the window, a stall door bursts open. He locks eyes with his attacker, a pale, incredibly hairy man who looks to be about 50 years old, yet bizarrely dressed in modern teenager's clothing. It's a deeply unsettling detail that just highlights the sheer terrifying unpredictability of this encounter. Our storyteller drops to the boardwalk below, bruising his knee, and runs for his life. Police later confirmed the bathroom handle had indeed been tampered with to trap him inside.
Now we saved the most deeply disturbing account for last. Number 4, the Dune Fire.
This story involves an 8-year-old boy staying at a massive beach house with his extended family. But this particular summer, the structural layout of his beloved neighborhood was drastically altered because of a forecasted hurricane. Normally, you can stand on the boardwalk and see the ocean stretching out for miles. But for hurricane prep, the town built massive, towering sand dunes along the shore. And to an 8-year-old, these looked like impenetrable castle walls. And this brilliantly illustrates the problem. While they protected the town from the water, they completely blocked the beach from view. They isolated the shoreline from the safety of the boardwalk, creating a massive, dangerous blind spot where literally anything could happen unobserved.
Being a bit of a rebellious kid, he sneaks out of the house one evening right before sunset. The boardwalk is eerily, totally deserted. But then he notices a thin trail of smoke rising from behind one of the massive sand dunes. He said it looked like a volcano erupting from the sand. Driven by innocent curiosity and thinking maybe someone needed help, he scales the massive dune and looks down. He sees a bonfire burning right in the middle of the beach. But there are no chairs, no coolers, no people. Just an abandoned fire. Which obviously begs the question, why would someone abandon a fire on an empty beach?
So the boy slides down to investigate and starts kicking sand to put the fire out. As he uses a stick to poke at the ashes, he makes some horrifying discoveries in real time. He finds kids' clothes, stuff his own size, kids' shoes and socks, half-burned fabrics, and then the clincher, a charred photograph. He picks it up, and the face staring back at him from the burned edges is a boy right around his age. But it gets worse. The boy in the photo looked almost exactly like him, like they could be cousins. A sickening dread washes over him as he realizes he isn't just looking at trash, he's looking at evidence. Suddenly, a voice shouts out, "Hey!" from down the beach. He looks up to see a bald man staggering quickly toward him, seemingly drunk or worse. The man yells, "Hey, don't you go anywhere!" The 8-year-old's survival instinct finally overrides his frozen fear, and he sprints for the massive sand dune. But the sand makes running agonizingly slow. He can hear the man screaming obscenities right behind him. Just as the boy scrambles over the crest of the dune, he feels the man's fingernails literally clawing at his ankle. By an absolute miracle, the man misses his grip and the boy vaults over, tumbling to the safety of the boardwalk and running all the way home, way too terrified to ever tell his parents.
All 4 of these stories share a common thread, which brings us to our overarching theme. Number 5, a lingering fear.
It's really about the permanent psychological mark left behind when a place you associate with joy, cotton candy, and summer vacations is peeled back to reveal something deeply sinister. When the environmental variables change, when the lights go down and the crowds leave, the reality of that space changes entirely. It forces us to ask one final, deeply unsettling question. How safe are your nostalgic childhood sanctuaries when the crowds disappear? The places we feel most comfortable in might just be hiding the darkest, most inexplicable secrets, simply waiting for the moment you decide to take a walk alone. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes open out there, and I'll catch you next time.